Good afternoon. My name is Michael Pelzel. I'm a composer from Switzerland and I have visited South Africa several times, amongst other visits in a framework of Pro Helvetia Arts residency in 2010 and within a framework of a concert tour with a Swiss instrumental ensemble in 2011. Today, I would like to present my piece Before the Sky Falls to you. And in this context, I would like to go into the aleatoric and semi-aleatoric parts of this work in particular. I want to thank to Theo Herbst for inviting me to the Both Electrons online festival of this year. At the beginning of my considerations, I asked myself whether, in principle, every form of musical notation does not actually contain a bit of aleatorics, because no matter how you notate something, there will be always a slightly different musical result. In this respect, the transition between precise notation and aleatoric notation is always a bit fluent. Especially with high harmonics or multiphonics, for example, everything will never sound exactly the same a second time. Even in traditionally notated music, many details are left to the interpretation and free design of the performer. Without going too much into the history of music using aleatoric compositional techniques, I would like to mention that, for example, Bruno Maderna, Franco Donatoni, Mauricio Kagel, as well as Lutosławski and John Cage, all used aleatoric compositional techniques excessively in their works at some stage. Also, I sometimes think that with space notation or aleatoric notation, it's more about defining what shouldn't happen rather than what should happen. The musicians often play too many actions too quickly at the same time, and you have to limit that somehow or control. It's basically about composing something like around a black hole. Often too much of the same thing is played at the same time or nothing at all. Hints for the musicians that they should listen to each other or what expression the music should have can also help a lot. The fundamental problem with aleatoric notation can be that either the playing energy is permanently high or too high, otherwise it is lost or it is simply undirected and uncontrolled. This third thing happens very often, or extremely constant. Breaking through this is challenging and quite demanding. In this work, I have tried to formulate flowing transitions from exactly notated passages to aleatoric sections with the notation as precisely as possible. In the following, I would like to present my piece Before the Sky Falls to you in sections. At the beginning, I worked with a floating technique, which is created when you play glissandi to the deep blank G of the cello with the G around it very close together. If you get very precise distances, such as an exact quarter tone or an exact sixth tone or an exact eighth tone, very precisely pulsations such as triplets, sextuplets, quadruplets, etc. arise. I will now play the beginning of the work for you and fade in the notes and ask you to listen to the microtonal vibrations. hope you could hear the beats and the pulsations. So the question is why some aleatoric or semi-aleatoric notation here? The thing is that the first vibrations have to be felt until the music can continue, because it's a very sensitive moment when the musician can really hear the vibrations. And if then the exact notation pushes him to play forward, it's a pity for the sensitive experience. I deliberately chosen a free notation here, or rather told the musician to interpret the passage very freely, because the beats are very difficult to feel. If you then notate too precisely, the details and pulsations cannot unfold the same extent. Here, I worked with some free pulsations. Here, in measure 63, I worked with some free pulsations and some flageolets. The cellist plays the two empty sides and now and then freely chosen overtones in the empty sides in a free register. The rhythm is roughly fixed, so the pitch can be chosen freely by the performer. There are also fixed rhythmic values from bar 68 on the clarinet, for which the actual pitch can be freely selected. I have also specified a pool of pitches in the accordion part, which the interpreter can play freely from here. For example, from bar 68. here in measure 78, the entire notation 78 and 79 until 85 becomes even freer. Only approximate rhythmic values are notated here, and the musician can accordingly interpret the musical text even more freely. I would also like to present another passage from bar 117, where a distinctive descending ridodunda process is notated. In principle, everything is precisely written, with the exception of the piano and cello clusters. These tones can be supplemented by the musician more or less freely and provisionally in the right rhythm sequence. As a last passage, I would like to show you the moment from bar 148 that you just heard before, where I work with similar motifs as before, but there are notated completely freely and can be supplemented improvisationally from bar 194 to bar 160. There is even a sort of a compression and shortening of the musical elements up to the climax in measure 161. I play this passage from measure 149 again for you. And after that, I thank you very much for your listening and have a nice day. All the best.